We're still here on this beautiful edition of Wake Up Nigeria. And right now it's time for us to check what we have at the covers of the dailies. And I'll be starting with The Guardian. Now, for The Guardian, for the major headlines here, we have Labour demands inflation proof, pay frequent wage review. We have that on page 6. And beneath that to the left, we have minimum wage takes back seats in Kano, Kwara as NLC marks May Day. We have that on page 30. Below that, we have telco losses, irregular levy remittance threaten NCC's 549 billion naira target. We have that on page 15. Below that, we have an image there. And PDP chides Ayede Tiwa for budgeting 5 billion naira to renovate daycare center. And of course, beside that, we have workers wary as federal government assures on May 1st date for new minimum wage. We have that on page 6. And below there, for some sports, we have Super Eagles, how to support indigenous coaches to grow, win laurels. We have that on page 5. Duty exchange rates fueling uncertainty, adjusted 28 times in 2024. Q1 says CPPE. We have that on page 4. And right there you see in red to the left, we have PDP rallies, aggrieved members targets 2027 presidency. We have that on page 7. To the right of that, we have 10 years after the shame of Chibok lingers on government. We have that on page 5. And that's all we'll be taking on the covers of The Guardian. Moving quickly on now, we have the Daily Trust. And for the major headlines there, we have pay us 615,000 naira minimum wage or face showdown. Now we have that coming from Labour to federal government on Workers' Day. Now demands electricity tariff reversal. We are considering living wage, says Tinubu. Governors promise better welfare for workers. We have that on page 4, 8, and 36 respectively. To the top of that, to the left, we have Naira devaluation, biggest mess of 2023. From Dangote, we have cocoa now gold in Taraba as buyers overwhelm farmers. We have that on page 22. And looking at the strip below there, still talking on the fuel scarcity, we have fuel scarcity, go after saboteurs, reps tell security agencies. We have that on page 21. To the below that, we have farmers headers sign peace pact in Southwest. To the right of that, we have pregnant women decry high cost of Medicare baby essentials. We have that on page 29. To the right of that, we have arrested ASP rescued kids handed over to police in Sokoto. And that's all we'll be taking for the covers of the Daily Trust. Moving quickly on now, we have The Nation as well. For the major headlines here, we have same one repeated on the previous newspaper. Federal government promises living wage as NLC demands 615,000 naira minimum wage. We have at the top of the paper to the left, we have payments of 2.75 billion naira to property owners on Lagos-Calabar Road begins. We have that on page 4. That literally seems to be piquing the interest of a lot of people, especially here in Lagos State. And to the right of that, we have jubilation as Transportation Minister flags off Port Harcourt Abad train service. We have that on page 4. And to the strip below, family heads seek speedy Olubadan coronation at meeting with Ladoja. We have that on page 8. And finally, we'll be taking the Punch newspaper. And for the major headlines, again, another one repeating here because of how pressing it is, minimum wage. Federal government, Labour talks deadlock. NLC demands 615,000 naira demand. Now, for the writers, we have Tinubu says government unions fail to reach consensus, assured workers of living minimum wage. Federal government frustrated negotiation anything below 615,000 naira will make workers poorer. NLC TUC. Now, to the top of the paper there, to the left, we have fuel scarcity. Federal government's plans 15-day emergency fuel supply. We have that on page 27. To the right, we have government expenditure rose by 33% in February, MPC member. And we have that on page 26. To the right of that, we have federal government gives fresh conditions for gas license. We have that on page 26 as well. To the right there of the image, we have of the Deputy President's Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers. We have there Greek imports gulp 12 trillion naira despite 9-year anchor borrowers scheme. We have that on page 28. Below there, we have Lagos uncovers under-bridge apartments where tenants paid 250,000 naira rent. I literally saw this particular story and I was totally set aback. And we have that on page 38. And below there to the left, we have Safe School Initiative to cover off-campus hostels. Commander, we have that on page 37 if you want to check the story out. To the right of that, we have school mourns 14-year-old British Nigerian killed in London sword attack. We have that on page 26. That's a very, very sad story. Federal government restricts Lagos bridges, sand miners licenses. We have that on page 27. Now, that's all we'll be taking on the covers of the dailies this morning. Definitely implore you to check out this story so you have more details. And that's all right now on newspaper headlines. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, we still have so much more right here on Wake Up Nigeria. Do stay with us.